What's up guys? Jen Heward, aka Honeybuns Fit, back with some more educational videos. Excuse my nose, I'm sounding quite nasally. I'm a little bit congested. I ended up getting like a head cold again this last week after me and Zach went to Oregon for a wedding, and it was like 5 degrees like at night. And one night I was out there taking pictures. I don't know why. Doing it for the gram. Anyway, I was taking pictures and then of course just being outside, but just not being used to the cold. One night I did drink, I had wine and I had like vodka, lime juice like mixture. That's all I usually do with some sparkling water. And I drank a little bit more than I usually do. Last time I drank was Olympia in Vegas when it was September. That was the last time I really drank. And of course I'm paying the consequences with that this last week, recovering. That's why I never drink, because it takes you like a full week to really recover. And of course I ended up getting sick, you know. So I'm going to be talking about a series of different ways of nutrition. I don't really call them diets, because if you want something to fit into your lifestyle that you can just continue to do day in and day out for as long as you want, until maybe you get sick of it and you want to try something different, but not doing something temporary, drastic, where you just get tons of weight loss all of a sudden and then you stop doing that diet, you go back to a way of eating that you prefer, then you gain all the weight back. We want to try to avoid that. I'm going to talk about a variety of different nutrition plans that you can follow that might work for you. One might work for you and one might not. There's so many different ways to get in your nutrition and achieve your weight loss goals or weight gain goals, whatever it is that you're going for. And each one can be fit to each different person, each individual. I know personally, all these ones I'm about to explain to you guys, I have personally tried. There's ones I liked, ones I personally didn't like for various different reasons, and ones that I really enjoyed and I've kept with for a long period of time. So this is where you guys just play around with the different styles of nutrition and see what works for you. But I'm gonna break them down for you so you kind of have an idea of how they work, and maybe it's for you and maybe it's not. I'll let you be the judge of that. I have done carb cycling in the past. I really enjoyed it at the time because there was the days where you really got high carb, and who doesn't like a day where you just eat tons of carbs? And then as each day passes, your carb intake starts to lower before you go back to a high carb day. Hence the name, carb cycling. You're starting with a high number, you work down to a moderate, and then you work down to a low. Before you jump into carb cycling, you wanna make sure, or any new nutrition plan, you wanna make sure that you understand it to the T before you do it. No, carb cycling has become super popular over the years. I know when I first heard about carb cycling, I'm like, whoa, let's do it, I like it. Like any other newbie, I jumped into it before fully understanding it. So I didn't really achieve a whole lot of results from carb cycling, so I kind of took a break from it, went to something else. Then the next time I went into carb cycling again, I had a better understanding of it and I actually achieved better results. You want to make sure that you just don't jump into whatever the fad is going on at the moment. If you're like, I wonder what that is, take it upon yourself to research and understand what it is. So carb cycling is basically a program where you're mixing in high carb days and low carb days. It's going to help you achieve weight loss without just staying on a low carb diet for long periods of time, because eventually you're gonna get consequences with that. You guys know I've talked about it a lot of times. When you're on low carb for a long period of time, eventually your metabolism starts to slow down, your body starts to shut down and naturally goes into survival mode, because that doesn't have the supply of carbs, of glucose that comes from carbs, to compensate for the energy that's being put out. So carb cycling, you know, you're kind of basically always shocking your system, shocking your body, and avoiding it adapting and going into that survival mode. Think of carbs as muscle and brain energy. Without carbs, without glucose, where does your body get energy from? You're gonna notice a lack of performance physically and your ability to think. So that's why it's important to have carbs in your diet and have a constant supply. And it can be in so many different forms. A lot of you probably notice when you do have a day where you eat more carbs, you're gonna feel like super energized, you're gonna feel like you can really focus. There's a reason why. Your body has a good amount of supply of glucose coming from your carbs to supply your body's energy needs, and that's all different aspects, from your brain to your physical to everything. And then when you're on a low carb day, you probably notice you're sluggish, and then you're like, I can't really think, and you're like frustrated, you get pissed off easy, you get irritated easy. That's why. Probably burned through the majority of its glycogen, and it's letting you know. So the first thing you want to start with when planning out your carb cycling is your training days in conjunction with your carb, your high and your low carb. High carb day should always be on your heaviest, most intense day of training. That might be your leg day. You have 2 leg days a week. You want both of your high carb days to be on your leg days. Here's where you're going to need to organize your training days. You might have high carb day first, and then you add in 2 upper body training days or core or whatever it is, and then your 4th day is going to be a leg day. So you would have high carb, then you kind of drop it down to moderate carb, then to low carb, then you're back up to high carb again on that 2nd leg day. Does that make sense so far? Then for having high carb on your heaviest training days is because the body needs more carbohydrates, more glucose that comes from carbs on these days. When you're doing your heaviest and you're pushing your hardest on your weight training days, your body requires more glycogen to get you through that push. You want to make sure you have your high carb day on your most powerful, hard, intense training days. Then it goes back to macros. So you guys know I've always counted, I've always done macros. That's a number that's of protein, carbs, and fats. And once you know that number, then you can kind of split and divvy out your carb rations throughout the day. I personally like to leave majority of my carbs around my workout. So having a good source of carb, like maybe an hour before training, gives your body time to digest the carbs, and it puts it into your glycogen stores. So that can be your fat stores and your muscle tissues. It gets saturated. So they're ready and they're there for when you get to your training session. Boom, they're available when your body needs that energy. You can even do a carb source during your workout. So I've talked about doing a carb drink. I do that during my workouts as well, drinking a carb source throughout my workout, so I'm having that constant supply of glucose energy through my workout. The nice thing is your body is going to actually take that carb source that you're intaking, liquid form, through your workout, and it's going to use that for energy, and it's going to preserve and maintain your muscle. Because your body naturally, if it does not have glucose, it does not have carbs in your body to supply its energy needs, what's the first thing it's going to do? It's going to start breaking down muscle tissue, because naturally your body's going to save and store as much body fat as it can for when it really needs it. Survival mode. That's why it's good to always have carbs and have that supply according to somebody's needs. Also, in taking a carb source after your workout, it could be right after. You could do a fruit or something that's easily digested and quick digested for faster recovery and to replenish your glycogen stores, and then having another carb source maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours after your workout. So on those high carb days, you go crazy. Have a carb when you wake up all the way to when you go to bed, which is nice because who doesn't want a lot more carbs in one day? Don't freak out about eating carbs and that it's gonna store fat, it's gonna turn into fat, because if they are used correctly, timed correctly, and you're taking in the proper amount, your body is going to use it and less likely to be stored as fat. It's the people who eat high amounts of carbs, especially processed carbs, and they're not doing enough exercise. If you're exercising 5-6 times a week and then you're having that constant supply of carbs, you're gonna be fine. I mean, I'm a perfect example for that. There's a lot of other people out there who eat plenty of carbs. It's just having it balanced and timed right. You're gonna be fine. When you do high to moderate to low carb, you also want to manipulate your fat. You want to keep your protein the same the whole time, but your fat and your carbs are going to be changed. On your high carb days, you're going to be intaking low fat. On your moderate carb days, you're going to take in moderate fat. On your low carb days, you're going to take higher fat. Doing a low fat on a high carb day you're just allowing room for more carbs. Now, also keep in mind, fat slows down digestion, which can make you feel fuller longer. The way your body processes and breaks down carbs to glucose, it can slow that down. So on your high carb days, you want to be able to intake all the carbs that you all the carbs that you want to without getting full too fast or slowing down the process. Plus, on your low carb days, when you have fat in there, it kind of helps mellow it out, kind of helps keep you sane, especially on those low carb days. Who doesn't love fat? But also, when you are going low carb, you're still intaking something. It helps with overall health and proper function of your body as well. So it's about a balance. Biggest thing a lot of people notice is when they do eat more carbs, they say they look like they're gaining weight. You're not gaining weight from eating carbs. What people usually misconstrue as gaining weight is water retention. You can expect to have a little bit of water retention from eating more carbs, especially on a high carb day. For every gram of carb, your body actually stores 4 grams of water with that. Don't freak out. It's a normal process. Again, it's not that you're gaining fat. So many people think that they're gaining fat, but really it's just water. You'll notice when you go from high carb and then you start decreasing the carbs again, your water retention is going to go down. That's the reason why, is because there's less carbs, less water. More carbs, more water. It's just normal. So don't freak out. It's just part of the process. So a good thing to think about is if you really do struggle with that, the way you look at yourself, you know, the fluctuations in water weight, and you just can't handle the fluctuations, then maybe carb cycling is not the thing for you. So you got to think about that too. That comes down to that. So if you really do struggle with the mental part of it, you know, might be good for you. It might help train your mind to be okay with that. But if it's something that you can't get over, again, maybe carb cycling is not for you. A lot of people think that when you get to have higher carbs or the flexible dieting that, oh, I can have donuts and all this crazy amount of stuff on high carb day. No, it doesn't mean that. It still means you need to choose some good sources of carbs. You want to choose the carb sources that are highest in glucose or complex carbs. So what does that mean? The carbs that are highest in glucose could be your simple carbs, or it could be carb sources is their GI, the glycemic index, is higher. That means the higher it is, the faster it's going to be absorbed into your body. Hence fruit. Why I love eating fruit right after a workout is because they're simple carbs. And the sugars, they digest and absorb into your body a lot quicker than rice or a potato would. It takes a little bit longer, depending on the carb source, to break it down and for your body to separate everything out and absorb it and digest everything from that carb. So the key to remember is you really want to avoid, as much as possible, the processed stuff, because your body is going to react differently to those carbs versus your whole foods. Processed stuff is going to be more likely to be stored as fat than be used as energy. Let's say you only are picking, one like processed carb. It could be, a bag of candy, or it could be your donut, and you're only eating that on your 2 high carb days a week. That should be fine. It's moderation, it's not every single day, and it's not 5 meals a day. So you can pick it. The best time to eat something like that would be before or after your workout. Otherwise, if you don't want the donuts, you don't want the candy, stick with your whole carbs. Figuring out the number. How do we do that? Well, you can go to jenheward.com. I have my macro calculator on there. There's a choice between fat loss, maintain, and bulk. Once you go in there, plug in your numbers, you get the macro numbers you need, then you can go from there with manipulating your high to low carb days. That is going to be different for each person. I won't be able to say this is the number that you need to be at and this is what you need to be changing, because I don't know. Each person's going to be different. Give an example. If your high carb day, let's say you choose the fat loss on the macro calculator. Your fat loss, according to your goals and your needs, is 200 grams of carbs a day. You want your high carb day to be 200, knock 50 grams off. You're 150 grams on your moderate day. Then on your low carb day, you're only 100 grams of carbs. Then you go back up to 200 again. So you can kind of see how that makes sense. You can really get creative with your math on all of those numbers. It just depends on you. And then of course, track your progress. See if you're making results, and give yourself at least maybe 3 or 4 weeks of being consistent with this program, and you're seeing results with that, keep continuing with that. Once you start your progress kind of slows down, then play with your numbers a little bit, maybe go lower, maybe go higher. It just depends. And that's where it gets fun and creative, and you just have to listen to your body, educate yourself. When one thing's not working, go back in, reevaluate, and then go from there. Again, with carb cycling, a little bit more math and a little bit more numbers are involved. There's a little bit more thinking and strategic planning, organizing, but it is fun. I've done it before. I did see results with it, but I got over it pretty quick. I liked something different. But staying consistent, there's going to be a little bit more planning involved, and you're going to have to plan out your days, because that number is going to be changing constantly. So you're going to have to be changing your meals constantly instead of sitting at one number day in and day out. That's what carb cycling is. So try it out. It might be for you, it might not, but hopefully this video was helpful and easy to understand. It helps you to put together your own carb cycling plan. But if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, move on to something else. That's the beauty of it. And with carb cycling, the nice thing is you can continue that as long as you want. It's not something you have to do for a specific time. Remember, I said you want it to be a lifestyle. If you love carb cycling, continue it as long as you want. All right, you guys, so that's it for the carb cycling. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, please share it, and don't forget to subscribe, because there's more where that comes from.